Welcome back, friends. This is Picks with the Professor, the podcast where a real statistics professor and his friends give you college football betting tips. I am the statistics professor, Professor Sides. You can follow me on Twitter at Professor Sides. Today, we are talking bowl games part one through Christmas Day of the 2021 college football season. The regular season is over. Even with the Army loss last week, I had another profitable week last week. I'm calling it a week, that extra game plus conference championships. That makes 3 of the last 4. And 4 of the last 6 for me. It's a strong close of the season. It gives me a lot of optimism for next year. My cousin Jared, that Navy win keeps you positive for the entire season. That's quite an accomplishment. So I'm going to give you the floors. I don't know if they'll give you the floor. I don't know if you want to take a bow or mic drop or what you want. But cousin Jared, bravo. The floor is yours, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the kudos. So a couple of weeks ago, I said that if I made 1 penny on this deal, that I was going to be happy, and I'm up a full unit. 1.2 units to be exact, but who's counting? I could have gone better. I think it was great. I'm like 2 Memphis unders from having a really good season. I mean, they really screwed me on those. So anyway, I'm very, very proud. If you stuck with us all season, I hope that 1 unit makes you feel as good as it makes me feel, because it feels pretty great. So yes, thank you very much. I will gladly carry the crown for this podcast for the next 8 months or so until we start again.
Yeah, absolutely. And longtime listeners know that you hate Memphis and their late game shenanigans.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Just remember, cousin Jared, it's only like 80% of a unit after taxes.
There you go. So exactly, I'm at 1 unit exactly. Perfect.
There you go. Rounding us out today, Jack. It's been a minute. How's it going?
Oh, did a nice little jaunt around the West Coast, so that was really nice. So fun story: the Oklahoma State Baylor Conference Championship game. I was in the air for most of it. I caught a flight from Seattle back to Indianapolis. Best flight choice I ever made. Congratulations to Baylor for winning the Big 12. I'm very happy. If it wasn't going to be Oklahoma State, I'm very happy it was Baylor. But hey, Baylor, win by 30 next time. Win by 40. Do something that doesn't involve me watching one of my teams have complete ineptitude from inside the 2.
Well, and to be fair, since you're an alum of both schools, both teams of yours had ineptitude at different parts. I mean, that was...
Oh, yeah, it was... I mean, we now know what it takes for Oklahoma State to dig themselves too deep into one of these holes. Yeah. And that was, I am very happy I did not watch a second of that game, because just the recap from my brother-in-law was painful enough.
Right. So I was at the game. I was right at the end zone on the side where the tackle at the end of the game happened. He's coming right at us, and he hits, breaks out to the open, and I know he's going to score. So I don't know the angle that y'all are watching from home, what y'all are thinking, but I mean, he's coming at me and I'm like, this guy's going to walk into the end zone. And then of course I'm on the Baylor side and everybody just loses their mind when that play happens. It was an insane play. Just a wild game. Both teams really tried to lose it.
Yes, they did.
Kind of the way I felt about it.
And in the moment you're thinking Oklahoma State just threw away their playoff chances, but then Bama housed Georgia, basically ensuring that the top 4 were going to stay the top 4, just permuted. And therefore the stakes of the Big 12 game at the end of Saturday turned out to be nothing.
Yeah.
Like both are going to a New Year's Six bowl. Everyone's happy. I get to sit back and enjoy a sugar and a Fiesta Bowl as opposed to getting thumped by Bama. So there's that.
Right. And of course, we talked about the playoff rankings a few times. And I believe a month and a half ago, maybe I made some comment about some of these rankings not meaning anything. And I was talking about all these things. And of course, none of it happens. And we all thought, cousin Jared, you and I both were on Georgia. We both really liked Georgia.
Oh yeah.
That was a surprise. Kudos to Bama for coming out and doing what they did. They looked really impressive. Looked not like the team we had seen for most of the previous month and a half.
There was absolutely no way you could have paid attention to college football all year and expected that to be the outcome of the game. That was one of the most surprising results of any game this season to me. I mean, when you saw what some of these other SEC defenses did against Alabama, I mean, the week before when Auburn basically shut him out of the end zone for 59 minutes, I mean, there's just no.
Auburn should have run that 2-point conversion that they ran in the whatever. If they run that in regulation,
we're going to be here all night if we talk about what Auburn should have done.
Right. And the thing is we talked about it on podcast, right? We said that number either wasn't going to get to 7, or if it was going to be hot for a hot second. That's exactly what happened, because there were people out there who were just saying blindly, if you give me 7 in Bama, I'm taking it. And I said, in general, that's a smart scenario, but we've seen when it goes bad for Bama, it goes really bad. I'm like, I think this is that game. I think that's kind of foolish advice. Turns out that was not the way it played out, right? And so, lots of chaos in the conference championships. It was a lot of fun.
And circling back to Baylor real quick, as an unbiased third party on that game, I have to say that play to keep the Oklahoma State running back out of the end zone was one of the best individual defensive plays I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was just, I don't even know who the guy was, but it was an unbelievable play. And that's the thing that's going to stick with me after the game is I don't know if I've ever seen a better defensive play. And there wasn't a big hit, there wasn't something crazy. It was just a great football play. And that really stuck in my mind.
I haven't been able to bring myself to watch it.
To
this day, I still haven't seen it.
It was the greatest individual play in Baylor football history. And it probably would be the greatest individual play, because every other play requires multiple people. It requires a great block. It requires a pass and a catch, right? It requires multiple things happening. This was 10 guys on both sides of the ball were doing other things. And then it was just,
you were there for that RG3 throw that beat OU.
But someone had to, I was there for that, but someone had to catch that ball.
Anyone could have caught it.
But
the point was that he threw it.
But I think in the moment, I don't know how many people would have, if it was me, I probably would have dropped it in the moment of all the, oh my gosh, right? But that's why the player who caught that turned out to be a decent NFL wide receiver, I guess, in Terrence Williams. Anyway, let's move on. We're going to be here all night just talking about the craziness of this last couple of weeks here. In case you're new here, you will hear me reference the model throughout the show. So a reminder to everyone that my full power ratings are available in the Google Sheet that is provided in the show's description. The difference between the two teams' ratings, once you account for home field advantage, makes up what the model thinks the spread should be between them. That's also in the sheet. That gives us a good idea where there's value week to week. In the long run, this is a winning strategy. However, while it does account for recent play, it struggles to account for recent injuries and now opt-outs and motivations. So what I'll attempt to do in the course of this episode is explain where I think the model will shine. Also note that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as I like to say the model will be profitable every week, that is clearly an impossible reality for any gambler. The aforementioned sheet contains all of this week's college football picks. We'll also post on Twitter any plays that are added. Links are in the description. If you enjoy the show, please like and subscribe, rate, and leave a review. We truly appreciate any and all of those things. And before I move on to the picks, a general PSA.
Yeah,
I do recommend toning down all of the bowl bets. I'm keeping the 1, 2, 3 unit scaling to illustrate my confidence level, but cutting all those down is recommended. All of Cousin Jared's plays are half units. That's because while bowl games are a lot of fun, there's coaches moving around, there's players opting out, it's hard to know motivation. Sometimes it's easy to spot those motivation issues, but then sometimes it flips, right? Sometimes a team hears for weeks how they apparently don't want to be there, and then all of a sudden they do. You just never really know with these bowl games. And I'll highlight 2 cases, just with my alma mater, Baylor. 2 years ago, they played Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Supposedly, Georgia didn't want to be there. They were only 3-point favorites, 3.5-point favorites, despite that Baylor team having no offense. Everyone said, oh, they had their whole offensive line opted out. They didn't want to be there, right? And then Baylor just got stomped. And then on the flip side of that, 2015, Baylor was ranked number 2 for a month in the middle of the season. They had multiple quarterback injuries. They were down to their third string quarterback. Things fell apart. They go play 10th ranked UNC. They run the Wildcat all game, set a bowl record with 645 rushing yards and won handily.
That was a good day.
It was a wild game, and everyone just thought Baylor was going to get crushed. They had, down to their third quarterback, and they lost 3 of the last 4, and they came out and cruised. So I say all that because it's just hard to be confident this time of year. I recommend keeping bet sizes smaller. The variance is just kind of through the roof. So it's one of those, you might go 20-5 or 5-20, and who really knows? So unless you have that inside information, I recommend keeping everything a little bit smaller, because you just never really know this time of year.
Well, there's only going to be like one person who thinks this funny, but if I recall correctly, the first half under did hit in that Baylor Georgia bowl game. if I'm recalling correctly.
I think it did. Yes, that was, of course, the year that Baylor first.
Of course, you'd remember that.
Yeah, I think Baylor first half under hit like every single game that season. Their offense was so bad they purposely just came out and were like, we're going to try to control the ball as much as possible, right? So
no, not that Georgia game.
If the first half under didn't hit, I think the game under would have hit. I think Baylor didn't score but like 14 the whole game, I think. So if the first half under didn't hit, the game under would have hit, I guess. But anyway, no segments this week, just bowl games in order. As has been the case, all lines are accurate as of the recording of this episode on December 12th, courtesy of Bet Online, with one exception, which I'll cover when we get there. No disrespect to the FCS playoffs or the Celebration Bowl. I don't have FCS numbers. None of us watch that. So we're going to skip the FCS stuff. And kicking us off Friday, December 17th, 11 a.m., the Bahamas Bowl. Toledo versus Middle Tennessee State. Toledo is a 10-point favorite. Cousin Jared, what do you have for us?
This line feels right. I would also say, for the sake of the players in this game, I'm speaking directly to you players here, keep the clock running on this thing, okay? And enjoy your time in the Bahamas. The game, whatever. Enjoy your time at the Bahamas. Stay out at the beach. Check out all the amenities at the resort that I'm sure you're staying at. The game, yeah, okay, that's great. But, enjoy your time in the Bahamas.
11 a.m. kick, guys. Please try to be done before happy hour.
11 a.m. Central. Do we even know what times in the Bahamas are in? Are they?
I'm pretty sure
they're in something beyond Eastern. Okay, if they're Eastern, I guess it's only noon. But Jack, what do you have for us on this one?
The Bahamas are on Eastern time, or whatever it's worth. All right,
so a noon kickoff for them
tonight. Jack's not going to have a lot of micro analysis on each individual game. I'm instead running one overarching strategy for this first set of bowl games. And I'm basically playing that if there is a motivation issue, it is probably going to be pulling these larger lines more to the middle. So you're going to see me take a lot of points tonight. And I mean that both on an individual game basis and just throughout the podcast. So official pick for me, I am going to be taking those 10 points with Toledo.
Middle Tennessee State.
Middle Tennessee State. Thank you.
Yeah.
Whichever way it went. Exactly. I don't care. Give me points. Give me points in the Bahamas, especially.
Hey, I'm with you. I'm taking Middle Tennessee State and the 10 points. It's a 1 unit play, just a lean for me. So my smallest confidence. My model says it should only be 9.5. But honestly, on this game, I kind of throw the model out. They're in the Bahamas, right? This is one of those where one of the teams might not show up to play football, and that's fair. You're going to the Bahamas, you got a free trip for it. I don't know which team it would be, so I'm just taking all the points. If they both show up to play, it could be a fun game, right? Who the heck knows? The second best, just happy to be their bowl game. Yes, definitely a fun one to travel to if you're if you're playing. It's better to go there than some of these other locations we'll talk about later on. The other Friday game, 5 p.m. Central kickoff. So you got 2 games kicking off relatively early. It's kind of interesting. The Cure Bowl in Orlando, that is Coastal Carolina versus Northern Illinois. And Coastal Carolina is a 10-point favorite. Cousin Jared, I believe you have an official pick for us on this one.
Yes, first pick of the bowl game season. I am taking the 10 points with Northern Illinois here. So a couple of things. Number one, Northern Illinois, their affinity for playing in 1-score games, I mean, it seems to know no end. So, I feel pretty good about getting 10 points there. The other thing is, I think Northern Illinois is going to be really motivated in this game, winning the conference championship, coming back, getting to a bowl game after having an absolutely terrible season last year. Coastal Carolina, on the other hand, had high expectations this year, and now they're looking down and they're playing in the Cure Bowl against Northern Illinois. Yeah, probably not too excited about that. I think Grayson McCall is playing in this game, quarterback for Coastal Carolina. He played in their last regular season game as well. If Coastal plays up to their potential, they probably cover this game. But I don't know if they're going to be motivated, and McCall's been injured all season. If he's, slow getting up once or twice, there's no reason for Coastal Carolina to keep him out there. So official pick for me here, I'm taking the 10 points from Northern Illinois. And not to sidetrack us here, we don't have to discuss it, but how is Chadwell, the coach at Coastal Carolina, still the coach at Coastal Carolina? I can't believe that somebody hasn't poached him away yet.
With all the moves and the coaching carousel, he's one that 100% should have been
Yeah.
eaten up by
Maybe
somebody.
he has a really nice beach house in Myrtle, and you
Maybe
don't want
so.
to give that up.
To
Maybe
be
so.
fair, I mean, Myrtle Beach is a nice place, right? So it's not, it's hard to beat the location there.
Mhm.
Jeff,
So
what do you got?
I, of course, concur with Jared for the arguments that I talked about earlier. So official play for me. I will also be taking the points with Northern Illinois. But for a lot of the things Jared just described, like this has backdoor written all over it. Like even if Coastal is up big, what is their incentive to keep their foot on the gas?
Right.
Well,
like, run the ball, run out the clock, go to Disney World. It's right there.
It's true. It's true. I'm going the other direction. This is our one head-to-head here of this podcast. I'm going 2 units, so standard play here. Coastal -10. The model says 14, so I think Cousin Jared, what you said is absolutely accurate. If Coastal shows up, they're going to cover this line. I have no idea if they will show up. We talked about motivation issues. This is why we said tamp everything down, because you just never know exactly what's going to happen. Bowl games are notorious for a team is favored by a bunch of points and loses. It's also notorious for random 40-7 type games. If Coastal shows up, this could easily be 31-3 at the half. And then there's no backdoor opportunity because Coastal's running away. So that's what I'm counting on, that Coastal is a just much better team than Northern Illinois. So I'm on the other side of y'all on this one.
Need to add a Disney World covariate to the model.
I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, you could add just a general one, right? A location, right? The next one, Boca Raton, Orlando, Bahamas, Hawaii, right? Some of those. Are they in a place that makes them just maybe not care, right?
Yeah.
Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Central kickoff, the Boca Raton Bowl features, this should be a really good one, Appalachian State versus Western Kentucky. Appalachian State is a 3-point favorite. Cousin Jared.
I was this close, guys, to taking the 3 points with Western Kentucky here. I mean, they are, but the thing is I think it was more a play with my heart than with my mind. Like, do I think that, Western Kentucky could win this game? Absolutely. I think they could. Is getting 3 points seem smart? Absolutely. But I think I just enjoy the brand of football they play. They're fun to watch. Like, every game that they play in seems to be really entertaining. And so I think it's more like my heart wants to back them just because I want it to be a good game. I don't know if I could come up with any good, good insight or reason why I should back them. So, watch Twitter. Maybe it's something I add later, but no great insight. I like watching Western Kentucky play. They're a fun team.
Yeah, this is going to be like my official start for the bowl season. Like, I'm working Friday, but Saturday I wake up, I'll turn on the TV. We'll just have this on all day.
Yep.
And this is a good one to start with on a Saturday.
It's a good one to kick us off. Yeah. I feel like there's some years where the first Saturday game is a 7-5 team and a 6-6 team, and it's this one should be a good one though. This is one of my 4 best bets for the day. I'm taking Western Kentucky +3. The model puts it right around here, so it's not a model edge. It's simply I went against Appalachian State in the conference championship game. That worked out really well as they were favored and lost outright. Western Kentucky played much better than I think people realize in that conference championship game against UTSA. That was a really fun game on Friday night. I had UTSA and it played out basically just like I thought it would, in that there was some value because UTSA was plus money at home. And I thought, it's a wild game and anything can happen. If you shuffle around the scores in that game, it's back and forth and UTSA barely wins. As it turns out, UTSA gets all the points early, Western Kentucky gets them all late. But I mean, both teams scored easily at times. And I think there's value in this number at 3. And that's why it's a best bet, because of the +3. At +2.5, I like it a whole lot less, simply because I think that this number should be south of 3, but I think that there's value in Western Kentucky because people are seeing, hey, this team just lost to UTSA. They were favored against UTSA. I think it's just a skewed perception of that game because Appalachian State hung in there against Louisiana, but Western Kentucky I think people just stopped watching, right? They got down big.
Right.
They stopped watching it. And I think people were writing them off. But I think this spread should be 2.5. So I think you're getting good value at +3.
There may even be some people on this podcast that stopped watching that game.
I was one of them. I don't know about you. I stopped watching it. I was like, hey, I'm, cashing the UTSA ticket, watching other things. All of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute, this is a game again, right?
Yeah. I got off the plane, heard about how Oklahoma State lost, and then college football didn't exist for me the rest of the day.
There you go. So best bet for me, Western Kentucky +3. I love getting the 3 there in a game that should be really good. I think there's a lot of value there at that number, so I recommend that. Second game of the day on Saturday the 18th, a 1:15 Central kickoff, the New Mexico Bowl. UTEP versus Fresno State, and Fresno State is a whopping 11.5 point favorite. Chris and Jared.
Guys, this line stinks, but I'm not falling for it this time. No official play for me here. I have no idea why Fresno State is only an 11.5 point favorite here. Maybe, the bookmakers are kind of like, I am when I said I'm done with the top teams in the Mountain West because I just can't figure out which one's good week to week. I think that Fresno State is much, much better. I think back to when UTEP played Boise State earlier this season and just got shellacked. I mean, it was like 52-3 or something like that. And we realized as the season went on, Boise State wasn't that great. This seems way off to me, but UTEP hasn't been to a bowl game in I don't know how long. They're going to be super excited. They don't care that it's the New Mexico Bowl. Actually, that's probably their preference. That's probably the closest bowl to El Paso. So
the Sun Bowl.
Okay, the Sun Bowl. Yeah. Besides the Sun Bowl, this is the.
But do they want to go to the bowl that's in their home stadium? I don't know.
Well, yeah. So I think they're going to be excited to be there. I think they're going to, be really excited and play really well. Fresno State. Coach left, but their quarterback's staying now. He entered transfer portal and decided he pulled himself out, decided he's going to stay when they announced that Tedford was going to be the head coach there going forward. So, I mean, he's going to play. I don't see a reason why they shouldn't win easily. But man, I think there's going to be a motivated UTEP team, and I just can't bring myself to back Fresno State here.
So I don't like this line either in the same direction that you don't like it. But I made my rule and I'm sticking to it. So official pick for me, I am going to take the points with UTEP. If I'm going to try and make an argument on this, like UTEP plays both New Mexico schools almost every year. Yeah. So at least Albuquerque's familiar territory for them, and they're not having to deal with all the rabid Lobo fans over there. And then, maybe there's a huge motivation issue from Fresno State. I love the New Mexico Bowl though. Have you guys seen the trophy for the New Mexico Bowl?
Can't say I have.
Can't say I have either.
It is a hand-painted Zia clay pot.
Nice.
And I think the MVPs of the game actually get like leather shields.
Oh,
leather shields.
Right.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Yeah. Like there's some individual motivation. Like you want to do well in this game because you get to take home some weaponry.
and that's where too, we talk about motivations, right? It's tough because there was almost a time when the motivation might not have been there because you were thinking about the draft, right? But now all those guys just opt out and don't even play. So we know about it, but sometimes it's hard to model that. It's hard to really know, right? If one lineman is out, even if he's the best lineman, I'm moving the number maybe half a point, maybe a point if he's really good and the backup's really bad. But it's not that much, but there's a cumulative effect, right? If like 3 or 4 out, right? But sometimes that's hard to figure out. But at least we know about it, right? So the guys that are still there in theory should have plenty of motivation. They're playing for jobs next year, right? So I expect everyone to come out and play hard. I'm falling for it for better or worse. I'm taking Fresno State minus 11.5, standard play 2 units for me. The model says 16.5. So
yeah.
I can't explain it either. I think that we've seen UTEP really struggle when they go up in class. UTEP's been a fantastic story this year. Like you said, getting to a bowl in the first time, and I don't even know how long, but they beat up on the Rices of the world. They beat up on the New Mexico States of the world. They really struggled when they played teams with a pulse. Fresno State has a pulse. So I'm just rolling with it. I can't advocate this as a best bet. I can't advocate as a rule of thumb a best bet laying double digits in a bowl game because you just, like we talked about, you just never know.
Yeah.
To me, the best bets in bowl games are around key numbers, usually around 3. That's where it's like, oh, I'm getting really good value on the right side of 3. otherwise, I can't advocate a best bet. But yeah, the model just loves Fresno State here, and I think it's right. If they show up, they should hang on.
So the professor and I are going head to head, and this is probably going to be one of the games where the correct decision was Jared's.
Yeah, do nothing. Exactly. Well, if nothing else, we won't push, right? Sometimes it's like all this for a push, right? But I feel confident that we will not push this one. One of us will win it, one of us will.
This is going to be the game where I wish I exercised discretion.
There you go. Yeah, very possible. Moving on, 2:30 in the afternoon, again on the 18th still, the Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana, UAB versus BYU. Cousin Jared and I went to an Independence Bowl a long time ago, actually. Georgia played A&M, and we were talking about this pre-pod, and he didn't even remember that it was me there. So I don't even know what to make of this.
Yeah, completely forgot that you went with me to the game. All I remember from there, the future Miss Cousin Jared was at that game, and I remember running into her during the game. So like everything else was kind of like a blackout. Well, okay, I know A&M lost, but other than that, I saw her. A&M lost. That was really all I remember from that game. So I was there with you. Great. I'm sure it was a great time.
And I'll add, I hope that Mrs. Cousin Jared isn't watching this, because all I remember was you went off and met some girl, but I couldn't remember which girl it was.
Okay, touche. Yeah, touche.
Speaking of though, I wanted to talk real quick. Jack and I talked about Baylor, Oklahoma State. Next, part 2 of the podcast, we'll have a lot of games to talk about. I don't know how much time we'll want to dive into Texas A&M season. So Cousin Jared, I did want to give you the floor and talk about that. If there was any disappointments with the season, at least we will talk about them next week in a bowl, as opposed to Texas, who we won't be talking about. So there is that for you at a minimum, right?
Yeah. So I feel like I may not be the best person to talk to you about this, because I think going into the season, I think the consensus for most of the people around A&M was 10 wins. That's kind of what they had the expectation in their mind. For me, I mean, it was definitely a step below that. I was thinking maybe more like 9 wins or something like that. And the reason I say that is because they lost their starting quarterback, and they lost all but one player on their offensive line. So going into the season, I thought their offense was going to have some problems, or at least it was going to take a while for them to kind of get built up and really get going. And then the starting quarterback getting hurt the second game of the season, breaking his ankle. So after that, Calzada came in. And so for me, we're kind of still on track for the season that I expected. We lost the Arkansas game. I said on the podcast here, I took the points with Arkansas. I didn't feel great about that game. That game was always close. And having a quarterback making his first career SEC start in that game against Arkansas, I just didn't, feel real good about it from the A&M side of things. So losing that game, I didn't think it was that big a deal. Everything was kind of still ahead of us. Hopefully quarterback was playing better week to week. But what really broke it for me was when we lost to Mississippi State at home, and our defense, allowed the Mississippi State quarterback to throw for like 420 yards or something like that. So that was really the one that kind of, broke my heart for the season. Because honestly, I think maybe the next week we beat Alabama. And I was happy that we beat Alabama. It's terrible to say, but I was happy that we beat Alabama for about 10 seconds. And then I was just even more mad that we lost to Mississippi State the week before, because that really drove me crazy. So
what could have been.
Exactly.
Which is what made that game that much more confusing at the time. It was like, did this team just lose at home to Mississippi State? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. So after our starting quarterback got hurt, honestly, I think we ended up about the same place that I thought we would after our original starter got hurt, because, even going into the season with a brand new starting quarterback and a brand new starting offensive line, you could have easily seen losses to, Alabama, and, a loss to, I thought LSU was going to be better this season. A loss to LSU. I thought that we were going to have a hard time with Ole Miss. Everybody kind of knew they were going to put up a lot of points this season. So, I may not be the best person to ask. This season went, I guess, about how I would have expected, but with like so many more highs and lows than I would have anticipated the season having. So yeah, I'm not too terribly heartbroken, but again, I may not be representative of the A&M fan base.
And the general feeling of the fan base, though, is a little bit more pessimistic, I'm assuming.
I think they would be more disappointed with the season. Yes, I think, I think others would say that the quarterback competition went a long way into the fall camp, that the backup should have been just as
Should
good.
have stepped right in.
Yeah, should have stepped right in. No big deal. Our defense was phenomenal, which is accurate. And then I think they viewed beating Alabama more as, hey, this is the team playing like they should. When my point of view of that game was, we kicked their butts the first half and then held on for dear life. Yeah, we held on for dear life. So, again, I think most of the other people probably would have been more disappointed with the season than I was. Again, this is kind of what I expected, but just not how I expected it.
Yeah, we didn't realize at the time, but we saw the back half of Alabama's season play out in that A&M game. The first half, the struggle, and then the second half, how they played against Georgia, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just interesting to me, and either one of you can comment or not. We can move on after this. I just think it's fascinating that you've got a team who, in Texas A&M, who was set up for moderate success in the Big 12, leaves the Big 12 to go to the SEC. Most people at the time, I think outside of College Station, said that was a foolish move. You're going to make maybe a little more money, but it's just not going to be good for the program. It's mostly turned out that way. It's up the brand a little bit, which has helped, but there haven't been a lot of successes. It's been a lot of 9-win seasons, a lot of 8-win seasons. And so it's been, maybe successful in some ways, but not really what people were inside of College Station were hoping. And then you see Texas run the same play. I just think it's fascinating. Texas had a team that, we dig on A&M winning 8 games in the SEC. Texas can't win 8 games in the Big 12. And so it just, the whole thing is just fascinating to me. And I get there's the whole money thing and that drives, all of this. But to me,
have I been on the podcast since Texas lost to Kansas?
I don't remember.
Hey guys, did you hear that Texas lost to Kansas?
Yeah, again, it's just the whole thing just it blows my mind, and it's just it's fascinating if you could go back. Is that we don't have to dive into this, but right, is that the decision that Texas A&M would make again? Would the prestige and the money, is it worth it, or would they say they think, because I think take some of those Texas A&M teams, you put them in the Big 12, I think they're the playoff in a couple of those years. I think they're national title contenders, but instead they're in the SEC getting beat up by teams that are pretty good,
Yeah, they would do it 100 times out of 100.
Still 100 times. Yeah.
I agree.
I think they have a chance at a national title in the Big 12 a couple of those seasons, and I think they traded it away for getting away from Texas and the money and all those other things. And then like I said, I think it's fascinating because Texas isn't even doing as well as A&M's been doing.
Yeah,
well, now they're signing up for the same deal.
Well, yeah, and not to prolong this conversation even further, but I feel like what you're describing is Oklahoma, and Oklahoma still decided to do the same thing.
Exactly.
So,
yes, absolutely.
I don't.
Absolutely.
I don't get it.
Are we all idiots? Would every program sell their spirit for the sake of more money on the bottom line?
Look, I'm not saying if I were A&M that I wouldn't make the move again. Honestly, I probably would. I'm saying if I'm Oklahoma and Texas, I don't understand this when they've kind of got the run of the mill there, because it's not like A&M had the run of the mill in the Big 12.
You're right.
In my opinion, it's
and no reason to believe in 2011 that they were ever going to have the run of the land in the Big 12.
Sometime I may record a solo pod on the 2011 Texas A&M football season, and it might go 2 hours. I think we had like 5 one-score losses that year. It was awful. Don't get me started.
You and I should drown our sorrows on 2011.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but also we were ahead of y'all at halftime. State, and then lost that game. Like, we managed to find a way to lose every game. Anyway, sorry.
And you're right. The decision at the time, very different than this decision. I'm not disputing that at all. I'm just saying that the main bottom line being there were a couple of A&M teams that if everything plays out, you put that team in the Big 12. And I understand that it's different being with OU and Texas, but a lot of those years, Texas not being very good. A couple of those years just having to beat OU, and boom, they're in the playoff. As opposed to the road they had in the SEC is tough. And then, like you said, now OU and Texas signing up for the same thing when they are the cream of the crop is.
Yeah.
I mean,
the whole thing is.
If one of A&M's goals was to get some notoriety and get away from Texas and OU, you have to think that this last decade was like opportunity lost, because now the road's just as tough, and now you have to deal with Texas and OU again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be my second solo pod. Will be trying to figure out what the no pun intended, the pods or whatever the groupings are that they make for the SEC when they go to the 16 teams. That'll be my second solo.
It's gonna be weird no matter what they do.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
Independence Bowl. There's a game. Yeah. UAB is playing BYU.
Yeah.
BYU is a 6.5 point favorite. All right, so let's talk about the
You're going to need 2 different time steps for the Independence Bowl.
For sure, 2 time steps on this one. For sure. For people who want to talk about the game, you're right. You're at the spot right now. UAB BYU. What do you got for us, Cousin Jared?
Yeah. So BYU, I'll keep it succinct. BYU has failed me one too many times here at the end of the season against some of these lower level teams. They've won, but they haven't covered. So my natural inclination was to lay the points with BYU here, but I'm not going to fall for it again. So I'm staying away from this game.
My only Independence Bowl related story is that it was Mike Gundy's first bowl game at Oklahoma State, and he beat Alabama in the last game Alabama played before Saban became head coach.
I remember that. They had an interim head coach for that game, I believe.
And the fates are conspiring to make sure that Oklahoma State and Alabama never play each other again.
Yeah.
But Oklahoma State has scoreboard. So
there you go.
I guess I'm okay with that.
There you go. I'm taking the 6.5 with UAB as a 1 unit pick, just a lean for me, my lowest confidence. The model says it should only be 5.5. So I'm hoping this game is fun and goes to overtime. And then I can just sit back and hope it doesn't end up as a weird 8-point game. This one's a really tough one to handicap in my opinion. So that's why I feel like just take the points here. It's more than 6. Seems like the smart move, but it's not a pick I love at all for this one. The LendingTree Bowl is 4:45 Central Time. That is in Mobile, Alabama. Eastern Michigan versus Liberty. Liberty is a 9.5 point favorite at most places. That's the line that we're using for this. I will note that BetOnline has it as of tonight, has it at 8.5. But some crazy numbered on the juice for one side and plus odds on the other, which is really weird. Most places have 9.5. So we're just going to use 9.5 because it's available pretty much everywhere else. And so that's the line that we'll use for this. Cousin Jared, what's your take for us?
No official play for me here as of yet. If this gets to 10, I'm probably taking Eastern Michigan. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago when Liberty played Army. Like when Liberty plays a halfway decent team, it usually doesn't go well for them. They just kind of feast on those really bad teams. I know it's Eastern Michigan, but I mean, Eastern Michigan's in a bowl game. They won 7 games this year, I think. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. They're not going to set the world on fire, but should they be getting double digits against Liberty? I'm not sure. So this is a line I'm watching. No play for me as of yet, but if it gets to 10, it may become an official play.
Jack,
sticking with my rule, official play for me. I will take the points with Eastern Michigan. I know it's Mobile, Alabama. I've never been to Mobile, Alabama. I don't even know if Mobile, Alabama is nice. But the forecast in Michigan for Saturday is snow. So almost anywhere is going to be better to be on Saturday than Michigan.
It's probably true. I am laying the 9.5 with Liberty. Standard pick, 2 units for me. I'm going to take exactly what you said, Cousin Jared. I'm going to flip that around. Eastern Michigan is in a bowl game because they play in the MAC and somebody had to be in a bowl game. I think the MAC has some decent, okay teams at the top. And then I think they typically end up with a bunch of 6 and 7 win teams that get there because they beat up on each other. Now, to be fair, they sometimes do well in bowl games because of the motivation, because they're coming to play hard. So I don't want to take that away from them, but I think that Eastern Michigan is in a different class than Liberty. I think they're closer to some of those weaker teams. I think this is one of those teams that Liberty beats up on, as opposed to my model has this at 8.5 neutral site. When my model pegs Liberty as a 3-point favorite, I get nervous. When my model pegs them closer to 10, that's when I think that they can do their damage. I just don't think Eastern Michigan's very good. So I'm laying the 9.5.
2 of their 7 wins are by 1 point.
Okay, well,
I said that, and both of y'all are like, who do they play this year?
Yeah. We'll go ahead, Jack.
You won't be impressed by who they played. So go ahead, Jared.
Not at all. So 2 divisions in football this year had every team in the division, not conference, division, bowl eligible. One was the SEC West. What was the other division?
I guess the MAC, since we're here.
The MAC West. Every team won at least 6 games in the MAC West.
And I'm guessing it's because they just beat up on the MAC East and they beat up on each other. And so they all probably had between like 6 and 8 wins, right?
That is a fairly accurate assessment. Yes, they had 1 6-6 team, 3 7-5 teams, 1 8-4, and 1 9-4.
Yeah.
Oh, actually,
I feel
they won the conference championship game. Northern Illinois did. So 2 8-4s. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that happens. I feel like the MAC's pretty consistent with that. They usually have a couple of teams at the top that are decent, and then they have a couple of teams that get in just because someone has to. And again, sometimes those teams do really well. I don't want to take that away and say all the back teams are going to lose bowl games. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just that sometimes they just get outclassed. I think Liberty's that type of team that's going to beat up on a bad team. So I feel confident laying the 9.5 with Liberty if they show up and do what they normally do. I think that they should win this by double digits. Saturday night, 6:30 Central kickoff. The Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. Look, it's hold on. Okay, it's Oregon State.
Oh, wait, what?
Utah State. Oregon State's a 7.5-point favorite. It's the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. I'm not saying to sponsor a lot of these because namely I don't want to. Have to type that in. But this one I did. I guess it's working because we're talking about it.
Right.
Fair stuff. The LA Bowl is a weird name, but I don't even know where to go with the name of this. Like, should we talk about the game or the name? I feel like we could go either way on this one.
Well, I want to talk about the game on this one.
Fine. And that's what we're gonna do. All right.
And Utah State. I said I wanted to take the under in that Utah State San Diego State game, and man, am I glad I did not, because Utah State almost did it themselves.
And I think was that the game that you pegged the number correctly? It was one game we talked about in the under, and you were like, it's off of this number, and I wanted that number, like that number hit, but then everything like it got like right to that. Was that the game? Or
I don't want to get too far off track, but you and I basically called everything that happened in conference championship game weekend. One of them was I think Houston and Cincinnati ended up like right at 52.
That was what it was. I think we're
50.
Yeah, and I think it was like you were like it was 55.5, and I wanted that, and then it's gone, and then it lands like right at 55 or something.
Yeah. So yeah, we caught a lot of things right there. Anyway, so I have no idea what to make of Utah State. Oregon State is much better at running the balls than they are passing the ball. And I think back to, like I said, against the San Diego State, I think about what Wyoming did to Utah State there at the back half of the season, where they just ran all over them. And I think that Oregon State could run all over Utah State. But after seeing Utah State,
we thought that last or 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
When we saw Utah State's offense against San Diego State, man, they look really good. So I'm staying away on this game. I think it's going to be really entertaining. I think it's going to be high scoring, but not enough for me to play total there. So enjoy the game. I think this is going to be a good late game on that Saturday.
I want to talk about Jimmy Kimmel.
All right, go for it.
So what station is this game being broadcast on? Is it an ESPN game? Is it a Fox game?
Isn't every game an ESPN game basically, except for like 4?
But some of them do get aired on ABC, so it could be an ABC. I'm looking it up right now.
Who's providing the commentary for this game?
It's an ABC game.
Okay, so Jimmy Kimmel could provide the commentary for this game.
You would think. He is going to make an appearance, like 1,000%. He's going to make an appearance.
I either want Jimmy Kimmel to do the entire commentary for the game, or I want whoever does have to do the mean tweets thing.
Yes. This one should be fun to watch.
There's going to be
some gimmick. There's going to be a gimmick for this, right?
You can't not let Jimmy Kimmel do something here.
Yeah.
All right.
This is over 7. Do you want this one too? I guess, Jack. 7.5.
No,
not taking this one. Okay.
No,
right.
not taking this one.
Showing the restraint on this one. I'm taking the 7.5 with Utah State. Normal 2-unit play. The model thinks 6.5. I went against Utah State hard against San Diego State. I have learned my lesson. I'm kind of like you. I think Oregon State is a pretty similar team to San Diego State, and we just saw what they did to them. And so this is one of those things where Oregon State is a better team. Don't get me wrong, but when I can get the 7 and the hook, I think there's value on that. And so that's why I like Utah State here, just because of that number. Like I said, the model makes the 6.5, and I think 6 to 6.5 is the right number on this. So if the number falls, that's where I would say you got to pass, or you just got to pick your favorite side or something like that. But when you're getting 7 and then especially the hook, I think that's a solid play on Utah State because I think they are good enough to hang in this game, especially after what they did with San Diego State. And wrapping us up Saturday night, 8:15 Central, the New Orleans Bowl. Marshall is at Louisiana. I'm going to say at because Louisiana often ends up in this game, and that's a home game for Louisiana. That thing is hardcore red in the stands. This game, I am giving Louisiana 2 points for a home field advantage, for better or worse, when I make this, when the model makes this game up. So Louisiana is a 5-point favorite here. Cousin Jared.
So I don't normally say this about totals, but guys, the total on this game stinks. Okay. So kind of the way that I aggregate my numbers for totals, I mean, especially late in the season, I mean, you're getting down to 2.5 points is a pretty big gap in what I think the total would be. Man, here, the stuff that I look at, it should be around like 50 or 51, which is really strange. So I'm going to fall for it. We've talked about it a couple of times here on the podcast that 55 is the most key number for a total in college football. BetOnline currently has 55.5. Official play for me, I am taking the under 55.5. I really like this play. It's to the point I think there's something I'm missing here. So I'm just going to tell you that up front. And it's a bowl game, not a full unit play here, people, only half unit plays. But official play for me, I'm taking the under 55.5.
How dare you root for unwatchable football in bowl season, Jared?
I can't argue with that. Yes, that is a very poor thing to say. Yeah.
I'm laying the 5 with Louisiana. This is another one of the best bets for me. So a 3-unit play here. The model makes this 7.5. Even if I were to only give Louisiana 1 point for home field, it'd be 6.5. This is a spot for Louisiana right here. They came out and played really well in their bowl game, in their conference championship game. I think they're going to come out and play well here in this bowl game. I think there's a lot to like with Louisiana. So I think you got a lot of different ways you can look at this game, whether you take Louisiana or if you take that under that Cousin Jared talked about. Some solid options for you. Moving on to Monday, December the 20th, 1:30 in the afternoon, the Myrtle Beach Bowl. That's Tulsa versus Old Dominion. This is 2 6-win teams. Tulsa's a 9.5-point favorite. But my question for y'all is, how many people are going to watch this game on a work day at 1:30 with 2 6-win teams, 2 alma maters that don't have a ton of alumni out there? Jack, you'll be off, Jack, because of your job, but a lot of people will be working. I mean, this is a game that I feel like would be better off at night, but I guess we have Monday Night Football and ESPN airs all the games, so they don't want to go against themselves.
I will be working that day, but I will not comment on whether I'll be watching it in case anybody I work
there
with
you go.
will watch this podcast.
There you go.
So I was trying to come up with something to say about this game, and then you said there's 2 6-win teams, and I'm just like, no, it's probably just better left unsaid. I don't have anything to add on this game.
Yeah. Jack.
So let's get this out of the way. Official play for me. I'm going to take all of the points that Old Dominion is getting out in Myrtle Beach. It is 2 6-win teams, but Tulsa's only a handful of points here and there away from having another 2 very impressive wins on their resume back when Oklahoma State was floundering, and of course Cincinnati. I get why the line is what it is, and that makes me nervous, but darn my rules and my inability to deviate from them.
Hey, I don't think it's a bad play. I've got a 1-unit play, so just a lean for me on Old Dominion plus 9.5. The model makes us 8.5, so I'm getting a little bit of value. I don't know what to make of this game either, but that just seems like a lot of points in a game on a beach where people might not care. I'd like 10. If it's at 10, I feel better about that, but I'm kind of like you, Jared. It's 2 6-win teams. There's not a lot to say. It's a lot of points for a bowl game when you know what's going to happen. So I'm taking the 9.5 just for the smallest confidence pick I can give you on this podcast.
I don't know how nice Myrtle Beach is in December. That might get cold.
Pretty
cool. It might get cool.
If you're from Tulsa, it's prettier than anything you have back home. And if you're from Old Dominion, it's probably still warmer than anything you have back home.
Yeah.
So there's that.
My apologies to my friends in Tulsa.
Speaking of warmth, Tuesday afternoon, the 21st, 2:30 p.m., the Idaho Potato Bowl, Wyoming versus Kent State. A wise move to put this game at 2:30 Central. It'll be a 1:30 Mountain Time kickoff because in Boise, Idaho, the weather could get nasty. And if it does get nasty, you do not want to play this game at night because that could get really bad for everybody involved. Wyoming is a 3-point favorite. Cousin Jared, what is your pick for us on this team?
So, Jack, you say that you want some points, so I'm going to oblige you here. Official play for me, I am taking the over 58.5. Can't believe I'm taking the over. In
How many
Wyoming
overs
game,
have you taken on this podcast?
Maybe like 3 or something.
Yeah,
like
not a
that.
lot.
It's not many.
And an over in a Wyoming game. I mean, come on, this is absolutely insane here, people. But let me hit y'all with some knowledge on this, okay? So Wyoming played 2 MAC teams this year. One of them was when I had the under against Northern Illinois, and they scored 50, okay, in that game. They went over by themselves. And then they also played Ball State and put up 45. And I've referenced a couple of times, what they just demolished Utah State there at the end of the season. Kent State, going over 58 for Kent State is nothing to them. So they played 13 games. They only went under 58.5 4 times, but 2 of those games, one was against Iowa, one was against Texas A&M. So, Kent State they like to go over the number as well. If I were making a play on this right now, I would probably buy a half a point here to get it to 58. 58 is like the third most key number on totals. So I would buy down that half a point if I could. I really like this play. As the professor just said, though, you could run into some weather issues at this place at this time of year. So I may wait and hold off on making this play if I were you, and until you kind of get a little more clarity on the forecast. But official play for me here, I'm taking the over 58.5.
You are going to run into weather issues. There is snow in the forecast for 5 days between now and kickoff, and it's never going to get above 37. So it may not matter, Professor, what time you kick this game off, because you might be kicking a boulder.
Well, yes,
instead of a football.
At least it'll be 10 to 15 degrees warmer than if you kicked off at 7 p.m. primetime type slot.
Well, and any forecast model is really not really good out past much like 3 or 4 or 5 days. So
we've gotten better at predicting out 10 days in advance than we were a decade ago.
You're getting quite a few of those to be wrong.
This is definitely an interesting one where you're watching the weather, right? It's kind of a catch-22, because if you wait and don't play this at 58.5 and the weather clears up, it's going to go to 60.
Yeah.
Probably 61, 62. And they are talking about crossing some quasi key numbers there.
Yeah.
Potentially. If the weather is bad, they're already baking in bad weather. If the weather's bad, it might drop to 58, maybe 57, just to confirm that. But then if the weather's bad, again, it's already baked in. You're kind of hoping that the weather's bad in a way that they can still score. And now you start breaking down what sort of weather, and this is why I have no totals in my model. I've thought about it, but I mean, weather is so key in making a total, because it's not just wind, but it's the direction of the wind, right? A crosswind really affects passing. In your face or behind you doesn't affect the passing. When you talk about precipitation, depending on how it plays out, sometimes if it's snow that's out there, it can actually help the offense, because the offensive guy knows where he's going and the defender doesn't. Right. So it's really tough to figure out if it's bad weather. It may not actually really keep things that bad. I think back, the biggest weather issues are if you can't see, or it's 5 degrees, or it's a crossways wind, right? And that's one of those where it's tough to kind of figure out. People, it's bad weather, no points. Maybe, right? Depends on a lot of factors. So this is a tough one to try to figure out how long do you wait, and then when you wait, everyone else is the same stuff, so the numbers moving around that. I think that's a tough one.
If you were a Kent State alum, would you go to Boise?
Boise is a beautiful place. I spent a summer there playing college summer baseball. I would not go there in December.
You couldn't pay me to go to this game, even if my team was playing in it.
Problem with Wyoming is located on the far eastern part of the state, and you can't make that. That's a full day's drive. I've done it. I think I stayed in Laramie, Cheyenne area. I don't remember which one I stayed in. I stayed in one of those two. They're half an hour away from each other. It's a full day drive into Boise. So it's a haul for either team, even though you say, oh, Wyoming's only one state away. All that rambling aside, I'm laying the 3 with Wyoming. It's minus 105 right now. It's just 1 unit a lean. I like the fact that it's smaller juice. 3 seems right. My model makes it 3. Wyoming's a better team. If anybody has issues playing in the weather, I think Kent State's going to have more issues playing in the weather than Wyoming. So I'll take Wyoming. It's not a pick I love, but if you're looking for some action on this one, I think Wyoming's probably the smarter play at 3, because again, I think 3 seems like the right number. Definitely a push possibility there. Tuesday night, 6:30, the Frisco Bowl. For those of you who don't know, Frisco is a suburb of DFW. San Diego State is playing UTSA. UTSA is a 2.5-point favorite. Cousin Jared.
I think this is going to be a good game. No play for me here at all. We kind of touched on it earlier. I was shocked at the San Diego State game. Maybe not that they lost so much as just the amount of points they gave up. But yeah, unlike anything they've done all season. UTSA can definitely do that to them too. They can score some points, but I just don't see that happening in back-to-back games against San Diego State. So I think it's going to be a good close game, and yeah, it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, another nice game that gets basically its own specific time in the time slot. I want to hear how the professor feels about the Roadrunners.
Hey, I backed UTSA last time out. They won, got them the conference championship. The week before that, I faded UTSA. That was the right call. The week before that, I backed UTSA. That's the right call. I started off, could not get UTSA right at all. Finish off strong. I've gotten several many in a row right on UTSA. I'm backing them again. Best bet for me, UTSA minus 2.5. Best bet. I love the fact that it's under the 3. Again, key numbers here are really going to matter, I think, around the 3, because any of these games can be blowouts, but if they're close, really key around those 3. So UTSA minus 2.5. I love that right there. I think they are the better team. I think that I wasn't a believer in San Diego State. I faded them the last week of the regular season. And I saw what they did to Boise, and I think I miscalculated, and I should have just said that was the Boise effect. Boise is just always an issue. And I said, oh, if San Diego State did that to Boise, what are they going to do to Utah State? And I think I should have just gone back to my initial opinion, which is San Diego State was a mirage, that they were not as good as their record indicates. UTSA has consistently this season played well in the big games, and they had letdown spots the week before. So I think people have that bad taste in their mouth from the UNT loss, but they've struggled the week before big games, but in the big games, they've showed up. I think they're going to show up in this one. I think they win. I'm not giving them any home field edge. San Antonio to Frisco is a
300 miles. I just looked it up.
Let's say it's a 5-hour drive, I guess. Yeah, it's a drive. So you're not.
Well, it's 7 hours going through that part of I-35.
Well, yeah, it depends on the time you do it as well.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. The stretch from San Antonio to Austin on 35 is brutal. So I'm not giving them any home field advantage. They might have some more fans there. That would be nice for them, since they've not been to a bowl in, I guess, ever, or did they make one as a 6-win team at some point?
I think they've made one at one
they
point.
Probably made one,
yeah. This isn't their first bowl.
This is their first bigger bowl, because they're playing a reputable team. So
yeah,
lots of excitement there. So I think UTSA at the right side. So best bet for me, UTSA minus 2.5. Continuing the DFW bowl theme, there's bowls in DFW 3 days in a row. On Wednesday the 22nd at 7 p.m, the Armed Forces Bowl. That's in Fort Worth. That's where TCU plays. Missouri versus Army. Army coming off a disappointing loss to Navy in a game they were favored by a touchdown or more, and Army's a 3-point favorite here. Cousin Jared.
So I can't believe I'm going to say this, and it was fitting that a service academy clinched my profitable season for me, because I love the academies there. No official play here for me, but if I had to pick a side, if somebody's really looking to play this game, I think I would be taking the 4 points with Missouri here. The reason I say that is because Missouri was awful.
3 points.
No, they were awful against the run early in the season, and they fired one of their defensive coaches. Can't remember which one, and they slowly got better against the run as the season went on. So I have a little more faith in Missouri's defense than I think maybe some of the numbers, project. Also, Army coming off the loss to Navy, that's always, potential for a hangover there. And we talk about it every time we talk about one of these triple option teams, the extra time to prepare for the triple option. They've known this game was coming for a couple of weeks now. So all of those things mixed together, I think I would take the 4 points with Missouri.
3 points.
3 points, excuse me. Okay, you corrected me the first time. Sorry, I didn't catch that. The 3 points with Missouri. But I don't know if I just don't trust Missouri or I just love the Service Academy. It's probably a mixture of both. I can't bring myself to do it, but if I had to make a play, I think I would take the points with Missouri here.
You're talking Missouri, who I've hated on almost every time I've been on the podcast, versus Army, a team that's trying to run an antiquated offense during bowl season. This is the stoppable force meets the movable object.
Yeah.
And if it had been anyone but Missouri, I would have been all in favor of taking whoever plays Army, but I don't trust that team enough to make a go for it here.
Yeah, my thoughts are similar. The model makes this Army -4, so I'm laying the 3 with Army as a 1 unit pick just to lean my lowest confidence here. I think 3 is the right number. If it gets over 3, I would flip and I would take Missouri. I think that 3 is a very likely outcome for this. I'm just trusting the model and saying the model thinks it should be more than 3, so I'm going to lay the 3. But I don't love this play at all. As we mentioned, having that extra time to focus on the triple option is very different. If this is a regular season game where both teams played the week before, I'm laying the 3 and I feel much better. That's a normal play for me. But given the extra time, it's like, I'm going to lay the 3 just because I'm trusting the model there, but it's not a pick that I think is great at that number. So if you're at a place and you can get 3.5, Missouri might be the better side to look at there, knowing that this game could land on 3 based off what Cousin Jared was saying there. And to wrap up the 3 games in the DFW area in 3 days, the 23rd, 2:30 p.m. The Frisco Football Classic. This is the game that
no, Professor, you've already covered the Frisco Bowl.
Yeah, that was the Frisco Bowl. This is the Frisco Football Classic, or the FFC, as the kids are calling it. I have no idea if that's true. I just made it up.
This is.
And it's a classic because it has been occurring every year since this year.
It's a classic because we knew it was happening all of 2 weeks ago.
Why do we have a world where we have 2 bowls named after Frisco, Texas, and 1 bowl named after Jimmy Kimmel?
There you go. I mean,
I don't understand. Do better, Texas.
This game was added because there were bowl teams and they said they wanted to play another game. I didn't know it was something you could do. I mean, in years past, we have had the whole, if you're 5-7 and you're high enough in the academic, whatever, you can get in. We've had that. In years past, 6 wins didn't mean you got to a bowl, and some of the weaker teams just didn't get bowl invites. But this year, I guess they decided we'll just make up bowls at the last minute, which is cool, I guess, for the
money,
kids.
Dear boy, money.
Well, and it's cool for the kids, right? It's cool for you got the 6 wins and now you don't get snubbed. That's cool. It's weird that all of a sudden this year we're like, yeah, let's just let them play. And that's what's happening. And so they're playing a football game here. Miami of Ohio is playing North Texas.
Texas. That's why.
Yeah, North Texas being in Denton, which is a drive to. I live in Denton, so it's under an hour drive. So I'm giving North Texas 1 point for home field advantage. Miami of Ohio is a 3-point favorite. Cousin Jared, what's your pick for us on this one?
So kind of blind here. I'll be honest with y'all people. Didn't do any research into Miami of Ohio, but I am blind betting this one just because of what I know about North Texas. Official play for me here, I am taking the 3 points with North Texas. And the reason I say that is because not only we just alluded to, this is essentially a home game for North Texas, but they have played almost the entire back half of the season with their their backs against the wall, needing to make a bowl game. They won 5 of their last 6 games or something like that to make a bowl. The last win was against UTSA. You got to know they're still riding high off of that one. I feel like North Texas, just general competition, probably fairly even with a MAC team here. So I feel good. I think they're on a roll. I think they're feeling good about things. I think they're excited to be in a bowl after where they started the season out at. So yeah, give me the 3 points here.
So would these have been the 2 teams that would have been snubbed if this game did not exist?
I don't think we know the answer to that.
Okay.
North Texas got put here because of the location. I don't think they ever thought through who it would be.
I mean, but maybe so. I mean, could North Texas possibly know the answer to that question?
Maybe. I don't know.
Because if so, and the answer is yes, then that team's thrilled to be here.
Yeah. I think North Texas is thrilled for sure because of the fact that they played hard at the end to make the bowl. So they for sure want to be here. I don't know about Miami of Ohio, and I don't know if we know or who might know who would have gotten the snub had they not decided to do this. I'm taking the 3 as well with North Texas. This is my last best bet of the podcast here. I love the push protection at +3. I think North Texas wins this game, but at 2.5, just not that push protection. If it's 2.5 at the shop you're at, whenever you listen to this, it's a play I like. It's just not a play I love here. But knowing that you've got the push protection on the field goal, I think UNT is the right side. I think they win this game. They've been a covering machine. They want to be here. I think they will have a ton of fans at the game. There's just a lot to like about North Texas against a MAC team, as we talked about with some of the MAC schools. Sometimes leave a lot to be desired in these bowl games.
I look forward to this being the only year this classic exists.
The night game on the 23rd at 6 p.m. is the Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa. Central Florida versus Florida. Florida is a 6.5-point favorite. What is a Gasparilla? That is the trivia question for the night. What is a Gasparilla?
It's the old word for root beer.
I thought that was sarsaparilla.
Hey, I got almost all the letters. Give me points for that.
I want to say that it's something to do with lawn care maintenance, but I think I'm just maybe thinking about.
I think you're thinking about the
bad boy mowers.
Yes, I am thinking about the previously bad boy mowers bowl. Yeah.
That is simultaneously a better and worse answer than what I did.
I thought a Gasparilla was like an animal. It's apparently something about pirates. There's the Gasparilla Pirate Festival, which is a large parade held in Tampa that's been held every year since 1904. So it's something to do with pirate stuff, and that's why it's in Tampa. They've got the Buccaneers, right? I don't know.
Yeah, smart of the Pirates to set up shop on the Gulf side of Florida.
Yeah, I feel like this last 3 bowls here before the holidays are. I feel like we're going to go really off the rails on this one. We've already done it with gas because this was the Gasparilla Bad Boy Lawnmower Bowl, wasn't it? At one point,
okay,
I think they threw all those. It was like the longest name bowl, and maybe even this year. I don't know. I just wrote down Gasparilla Bowl. So it may be the same this year. Again, Florida's a 6.5-point favorite. Cousin Jared, what insight do you have for us on this one?
My insight here is do not bet this game.
So
I think that would be not smart to do that because I don't think anybody has any clue which team. I mean, Florida, the good team going to show up, bad team going to show up, UCF, the okay team going to show up, bad team going to show up. I have no idea. So I would recommend staying away from this game.
I mean, should Florida be 6.5 points favored on anybody? When was last time good? When was last time good guy Florida showed up?
Central Florida has not covered many times this season and has not been very good, whatever that's worth.
Yeah, fine. I guess neither team has to travel terribly far to get to Tampa.
No. You may be hard pressed to find a team that's less motivated than Florida.
So
I mean, like not even going to an exciting destination, probably a place that like all these players have been to like 15 times in their life. I don't think anybody's going to want to be there.
Yeah, and given UCF going to so many big games, I don't think their fans are going to want to travel either. It's interesting that both teams being so close, either team could easily have a huge fan advantage, or it could just be like a mostly empty stadium, and I wouldn't be surprised.
I hear there's a pirate festival in town.
There you go. I am laying the 6.5 with Florida. Here's why. It's a 1-unit pick. It's a lean. I don't love it. I agree with Cousin Jared. It's not really a game that you want to be heavily invested in. I'm providing a service. I'm making a pick on every game. So thus I'm picking Florida. I have 2 reasons for picking Florida minus 6.5. Number one, Florida played hard after they fired Mullen in that last game of the season, and they took care of business and they won to get to a bowl game. So I have to assume that they want to play in it. I could be completely wrong, but that's my assumption, that they didn't have to go out and give a darn in that game, and they did. And their reward is playing, and they knew it would be a lower tier bowl game.
I
related
thought
to
beating
that.
Florida State was the reward.
Could be, but they also have a similar probably beef with Central Florida in that Central Florida wants to show that they can hang with the big boys and they want to always beat the big schools. But I think if you're in Florida, you've heard that from Central Florida enough that you want to put them in their place. So I do not see any mismatch of the Florida players will treat UCF like they're a nobody, and the UCF players, I don't see David Goliath. I think UCF's been good enough, big enough, talked enough that I think Florida will treat them like they're a real team. So I don't see any letdown there. The other thing, Central Florida just has not covered hardly anything. They haven't been that good. Their numbers have been mostly inflated all season. So it's just not a team I want to back. So I'm on the side of Florida. Again, it's not one I want to be heavily invested in.
When we started having this conversation, it occurred to me that we might see some bad football in this game. So I went and found what I went to go find what the total was, and I'm like, man, this is going to be an easy under here. And the book set it at 55. So let me interpret that for you. The books have no idea what the total on this game should be. And they're just like 55. So there we go. So
please don't make me think about this game.
Even the books don't know what to make of this.
Definitely going to be a wonky one. Christmas Eve, 7 p.m., the Hawaii Bowl, Memphis at Hawaii. Memphis is a 7-point favorite. I have a trivia question for you both on this one. Hawaii has now, this will be their 29th bowl appearance. Last year, they played in the New Mexico Bowl. And of course, we all remember the year that they went and got thumped in the Sugar Bowl by Georgia. We all remember
2007.
How many other times besides the Sugar Bowl, which we all remember, and last year, and their other 26 bowl appearances, has Hawaii played a bowl game on the mainland?
How many times have they played on the mainland?
Outside of last year.
Out of 27
out of 20,
games. How many of those were on the mainland?
I'll say 3.
That was impressive. Wow. The answer is 1. They played at the Holiday one time.
The Holiday, of course, which is in San Diego, about as close as you can get.
Yes. Otherwise, every other bowl game. So this will be their 29th appearance and 26 of the 29 on Hawaii. Various names. A couple of them have just names for one-off things. There was one that was on Oahu. Or the Oahu Bowl, and there's the Pineapple Bowl, and there's a whole bunch of other, the Aloha Bowl. They've named them all sorts of different things, but most of their bowl games come on the island. I looked into that because I was, in hindsight, they played really well last year in the New Mexico Bowl. In hindsight, it should have been easy money just to say, hey, Hawaii's excited to play a bowl game not on the island. You should back them. And they won handily. This year, they're back on the island. I have no idea their motivation. I have no idea about home field. It's Christmas Eve. They tend to do this a lot, so they're more used to this setup than Memphis is.
Well, but I assume this game's still being played in their parking lot. Like, I mean,
yeah, but they never really have a fan edge anyway. So I think that's kind of irrelevant. I think the issue with Hawaii is less about where the game is played and the fans, just more about the travel, the time difference, the distraction, the how, do you handle like a business trip or a pleasure trip? I mean, there's a lot of wonkiness going into traveling to Hawaii that's still going to happen here for Memphis. But again, you never really know what the motivation on either side. I feel like on a team that then gets a home game, right? As opposed to, it's a little different than the Bahamas Bowl where both teams are traveling somewhere versus the one team staying home. So a lot of interesting things to unpack here. Cousin Jared, what is your pick for us here?
Yeah, so I'm counting on all those things you just said, and we're getting to the end of the season here. So let's go back and play the greatest hits. Let's run it back one more time. Let's take the under 59 in the Memphis-Hawaii game. On a slightly serious note, there's been a lot of discontent around the Hawaii program. There's been some reports about how all of the players are entering the transfer portal because they can't stand Graham out there, the head coach. I want to say that their starting quarterback for Hawaii entered the transfer portal. This total has been dropping. If I assume it's going to drop a little bit more. But the main reason, it's Memphis. It's an under. I automatically like it. Official play from me here, under 59.
Is it a greatest hit if it doesn't actually become a hit.
Well, it's one of those things where I'm not going to be
hit.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm just not going to be appreciated in my time. When people go back and watch those games, they'll say, you know what, he was right on all of those games. They weren't winners. So anyway, but yeah, a greatest hit for me. So let's run it back one more time.
All right, Jack.
So I in our books, I had this as an official pick. I think the discussion we just had talked me out of it.
Oh, okay.
Because I thought Hawaii was going to be far
out.
Yeah, I thought Hawaii was going to be far happier being home than I think they actually are going to be, and they're still not going to play in front of anybody.
Yeah,
and the just happy to be their edge that they might have as a result of Memphis being there is also going to be diminished by the fact that a lot of the people in Memphis want to be there for Christmas Eve aren't going to be there just because of the restrictions it require to travel to Hawaii in the first place. So maybe it'll just be more Memphis taking care of business, getting home, and actually getting to spend time with family. I wash my hands of this. Everyone just go have fun. It's Christmas Eve. Spend time with your families.
Hey, I'm taking Hawaii +7, standard pick, 2 units for me. The model says +2. The model is not taking into account various opt-outs as we talk about. Here's what I will say. Unless all of the quarterbacks for Hawaii are out, I don't think it matters. I've seen a lot of Hawaii football this year. All of those quarterbacks are, how do I put this nicely? They're all about the same. They're all much better than I would be doing it.
None of them are Colt Brennan.
None of them are Colt Brennan.
Or Timmy Chang.
Or Timmy Chang.
Yeah.
Right. And to me, it's like you replaced, they played multiple guys throughout the year. You kind of didn't really notice it. They all kind of struggled. They all had their moments. So I don't think it really matters. I think the players that will end up playing, this is one of those things where it's in college. This is why people don't often do player-based models for college football. For the most part, the backups aren't drastically different than the guys who start. There are exceptions to that rule, but in the pros, your starting left tackle might be light years ahead of the backup, just because you're talking about the 30 best left or 32 best left tackles in the world, right? But with college, a lot of times with the way these guys recruit, they're relatively similar. So if they have a bunch of guys leave, the guys who then come in will want to be there. They will want to play hard. I don't think you're losing much. There's not a lot of star power at Hawaii anyway. So I just assume that they're losing 1 3-star recruit and they're replacing them with another 3-star recruit, or a 2-star recruit replacing with a 2-star recruit. So I'm not making too much of that. I'm getting 7. Cousin Jerry's taking the under. So if it's a low scoring game, I'm getting 7. I think there's some value there. It's obviously a scary play when guys start opting out and maybe don't want to play for their coach. But as I already mentioned at the top of the show, all bowl games are scary anyway. So as we mentioned, keep all of your bet sizes reduced down however you want to do it. But I think there's value at Hawaii +7 if you're looking for something to watch on Christmas Eve. And the last one that we're going to talk about today on this podcast, part 2, we'll cover the rest of the bowls. This is just part 1 here. Christmas Day, there's an afternoon game, the Camellia Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama. That is Ball State and Georgia State. Georgia State is a 4.5-point favorite. Cousin Jared.
I, am on a college football podcast. I love college football.
Where is this going?
Don't watch this game, people.
Oh.
Do do something else.
Bold.
Yeah.
There will be NBA games and there will be some college basketball games on Christmas Day.
Well, and I would even say, spend time with your family, open some gifts. If you're at a place that's lucky enough to have actual winter weather like Jack, sit by a fire with a good book, or watch a movie. And that's what I'm going to recommend here. I'm going to give Cousin Jared's top Christmas movie picks for you to watch instead of watching the actual
okay. All right.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna
you're so getting judged.
I was prepped that we were going to go off the rails. I didn't realize how much.
Yeah. So okay, this is like my list, right? So like I know I'm going to omit some stuff. This isn't meant to be like an all-inclusive top 100 Christmas list or whatever. Just this is cousin Jared's.
Wait, hold on. Before we start, we have to go with the question of is Die Hard a Christmas movie, right? Because that's
top line here. Got my notes right here.
Okay.
Top line right here. Honorable mention. Die Hard. In the words of the professor, it is a lean for me. The problem is it's a lean towards it is not a Christmas movie. So Die Hard will not be in this list, but I had to make note of that. Okay. So I'm going to start with my favorite category here, the Christmas comedies. Okay.
By the way, I'm also on a no. My take is a Christmas movie has to have a situation where Christmas is the focal point of the movie, and it could not have just as easily happened around something else. Die Hard could have easily happened around any other festival, holiday, anything like that. Christmas was not pivotal to movies.
I'm sorry, how many businesses do you know who hold a Halloween party after hours?
There need to be more of them. That's what's wrong with this country.
It only makes sense for a Christmas party.
Okay,
right,
so I'm going to start with the first category. Comedies, my personal favorite. These three movies on this list, ones that I watch every year. Again, Christmas comedy is my favorite category. Number one, maybe my favorite Christmas movie, Office Christmas Party. Okay, it is wonderful. It is hilarious. You need to watch it. It has
like
the movie that
Office Christmas
TV
Party.
show. The Office. I've never even heard of this.
No, it's Office Christmas Party. It has
Jennifer Aniston in it.
It has Jennifer Aniston. It has a few of the people from Saturday Night Live. It's got a few Saturday Night Live people. It is hilarious. It is a very good.
When I tweet out this podcast.
Yeah.
How many random things I can talk about pimping this podcast?
Well, if this is how Jared starts his list, God, what's on the rest of the list?
Guys, this is my Mona Lisa.
Proceed, Jared.
So I'll keep going. Number one, Office Christmas Party. Number two, Four Christmases.
Yes, solid. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Number three, Elf. Of course.
Yes. Of course.
So those are the three. Again,
side note. I got for Advent calendar this year. Elf socks Advent calendar.
Ooh,
nice.
Nice. I went with Mandalorian, but that's solid.
Yeah, my daughter got Disney Princess. So anyway, they're all books. Anyway, okay, so that's the comedy one. Again, I'm sure there's plenty of other good comedies. Those are my top three. That's my.
Christmas Vacation is solid, right?
It's coming.
It's dated.
Next section, the classics. Okay, if you're looking for a classic Christmas movie here. Okay, number one, Christmas Vacation. That's the top one on the list right there. Number two, It's a Wonderful Life. Number three, I'm going to go with A Christmas Story. And number four, and maybe so you could put this in a couple of places here, but I'm going to go Home Alone, and I lean towards Home Alone over Home Alone 2, because obviously the first Home Alone is a better movie, but Christmas in New York, Home Alone 2, man, it's just something about Christmas in New York.
But I got to stop you here. Okay, It's a Wonderful Life. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
But look, we're trying to give our listeners good movie ideas for Christmas Day. People, don't watch It's a Wonderful Life on Christmas. That movie's depressing.
Do not watch It's a Wonderful Life during the holidays, period.
It's so depressing. It's a good movie, but it's like 95% depressing and 5% uplifting. And I have a hard time recommending it to our listeners.
If you can go watch like an in-person, like theatrical performance of It's a Wonderful Life or a radio thing or something like that, do that. Do not watch the movie It's a Wonderful Life during the holidays.
Yeah.
So you've heard the rebuttals, people. It's up to you to make your decision. Okay.
So we might get like 100 comments on this.
Watch White Christmas instead with Bing Crosby. That's a better classic.
Or Holiday Inn, maybe. Yeah, but also nobody's going to make it this far in the podcast, so we don't have to worry about any comments.
No. This is for us.
Okay, so next section. This is going to be very applicable to some people and everybody on this podcast. Movies to watch with kids. Okay. So number one, you got to go with The Star. Wonderful movie. I would recommend. Even you, I would recommend watching. Even not with a kid. Watch The Star.
I've never heard of that either.
Okay, got to watch The Star.
All right.
Number two, The Grinch, the 2018 animated version. Freaking hilarious. I didn't realize how funny it was at the time. My daughter can basically quote the whole movie. She wants to watch it every night. So
I'm not sure I've seen the new version.
Okay, highly recommend watching the 2018 animated version.
My four-year-old niece loves the 2018 version.
Yes, it is very good. The Mr. Grinch song by Tyler, the Creator, much better than the Mr. Grinch song by Thurl Ravenscroft. Just my opinion. Just throwing it out there. Yeah. Okay. Number 3, The Santa Claus with Tim Allen. Going a little bit old school here.
Okay.
That is a very good movie. And this is near and dear to my heart. If y'all say that y'all haven't seen this, it's not going to surprise me. Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, I was gonna say if you hadn't,
it's Turbo
Jingle All the
Time.
Way.
Yes, thank you. That's pretty good Arnold Schwarzenegger there. So that's the last one on the kids list. Again, not complete. There's going to be plenty of others here. Okay, so here is top of the line. You've been spending too much time listening to college football podcasts. The spouse, you need to
especially this one.
Hey, say, spouse, I'm listening to you.
For only 16 games.
You. I'm dedicating time to you. I'm going to give you 6 Hallmark Christmas movies here. My 6 recommendations for Hallmark Christmas movies. Okay, so the first 3, ones that I'm sure that everybody's seen: Crown for Christmas, Switch for Christmas, and Christmas Under Wraps. Probably 3 of the best known Hallmark Christmas movies. Okay, like
I have seen
classics.
Christmas Under Wraps.
Okay, yes, thank you. Again,
yeah,
all very good movies. They're on once a day on Hallmark. Those 3 are. I'm going to give you 3 under the radar ones that if you see them on, you should probably watch. Okay, number 1, Picture a Perfect Christmas. Couldn't tell you the plot. Just remember I stayed interested the whole time. The second one, Holiday Date. This is one where the female has relationship trouble and she hires an actor to pretend to be her boyfriend at Christmas. Very, very good. If you're looking for an alternative, there's actually a movie called Holiday on Netflix that came out last year. I kind of agree with the professor here. It could be situated around other holidays, and it actually kind of is. It is a viable alternative to this one, but I would say Holiday Date is there. And then the last one, I would say Crashing Through the Snow. Very good movie. I stayed engaged the whole time with that one as well. So if you're really desperate, there's 6 Hallmark Christmas movies for you to watch. And that's it. I'm dropping the mic on that. That is my Mona Lisa. This is what my life has been leading to.
I don't know how we come back from that.
I do.
No, what's the game?
I smell a spin-off podcast.
Well, I've already committed myself to 2 solo shows. So the 2011 Texas A&M football season and the pods for, the new SEC. So I guess a third one,
I want to hear a Cousin Jared weekly Hallmark review for like the rest of my life.
The problem is I'm only plugged in November to December, and after that I have no idea what's going on.
Get this man a Hallmark Movies Now subscription, people.
Well, I have YouTube TV, and they just added that to YouTube TV. I was paying a separate subscription for Friendly just to have access to Hallmark for all of the ladies in the household. So anyway, now I've got to cancel that Friendly subscription because I've got it on YouTube TV.
So question from an enthusiast, Jared, like
okay.
the 2018 Grinch. How does that compare to the Jim Carrey Grinch?
Okay, so this is how I would describe it. It's more my sense of humor. The 2018 version is more my sense of humor than my wife's sense of humor. My wife would say that the Jim Carrey version is much better, but I think the most relevant data point for this audience is that my daughter is obsessed with the 2018 version. She wants to watch it every night. The Jim Carrey version, we put it on one time and she started crying as soon as Jim Carrey started yelling at Cindy Lou Who in the post office. So that's going to be a hard no in my house for the rest of the holidays for sure.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So what's the game?
There's a football game on Christmas Day at 1:30 p.m. The Camellia Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama. Ball State is playing Georgia State, and Georgia State is a 4.5-point favorite.
Yeah. So I'm watching a movie.
I feel like,
Professor, I have an actual question about
this. Is
game.
all leaving. There's no edits. This is not. I'm not touching this.
I haven't.
Hold on. Okay. Before we get to the game, I want to wrap this up here about the Christmas discussion, and I want to say, had we not gone through, 10 minutes of Christmas movies, which was not necessarily bad, but then we ended on. We got to Hallmark movies, and I don't think that I anticipated starting the podcast and landing there. I feel like this would have been the time when we all kind of like talked about what we would do on Christmas and family traditions, and been like, oh, well, like, I mean, I live in Texas, the weather is usually okay. And so for the most part, I've kind of developed this tradition of grilling fajitas, for whatever families in town. And we, and I like to watch the movies as well. And we kind of rotate through some of our favorites. I wasn't going to name them. I wasn't going to rank them. I wasn't going to rank them by category. You gave us like 4 categories.
I told you it was my Mona Lisa.
All right, Jack. There's a football game.
Yeah,
again.
All right.
On December the 25th, for the third time at 1:30 p.m., the Camellia Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama, Ball State versus Georgia State. Georgia State is a 4.5-point favorite. Jack, what is your question?
All right. Does the model? Where's my mic? Does the model give any credence to Georgia State only being a 2-hour drive from Montgomery?
No, there is no home edge here for that.
Okay. That's all I had.
That's all you had. All right.
I don't care. It's a Christmas Day bowl game. I have other things to do.
I am taking the 4.5 points with Ball State. 1 unit, just a lean, lowest confidence. Couple of reasons why. Number one, you're getting the key number of 3. You're getting the key number of 4 as a win, not just a push. At the time of this podcast, it's -103, so you're almost at even money, which adds some value. Again, as we talked about in a bowl season, that can be unpredictable. So I think there's a little bit of value there. The model has this pegged pretty close to this number. If I were to give Georgia State a little bit of a home edge, it'd still be right around the number of just go from one side to the other. So the model thinks this is a relatively accurate line. I looked at who these teams played. Both of these teams here. I'll give you the lamest analysis you're going to get on this game, which is at least not a list of Christmas movies. That both of these teams played Army. Georgia State lost to Army. Ball State beat Army. So if we're going to use a transitive property, Ball State wins this game. I do not believe in the transitive property.
That always works.
Yes, I looked through both these teams' schedules. Neither one of them is impressive. I think Georgia State is a little bit better, but I just think getting those points is value on a game on Christmas Day where you just don't know what's going to happen. As Cousin Jared mentioned, if you are fortunate enough to spend the holidays with family or in a nice location, that's always recommended to do something nice like that. But hey, if you're looking to watch some football for one reason or the other, I think there's some value on Ball State.
I've got to see if I can make the professor laugh so hard that we can't finish the podcast here. Did we watch Envy on Christmas Day?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did. Yeah, so I guess well, look, we're really just off the rails at this point. I think I'm gonna put in the timestamps like on Twitter, like, hey, here's the time. Just stop. Just don't even listen. Past this. If you care about the football, just stop at this point. Yes.
For posterity, I think we should remind our listeners that this podcast is not sponsored by Hallmark, Jimmy Kimmel, Disney, the city of Myrtle Beach.
Yeah. So we, growing up, we did have a tradition where we would have Christmas. It was on Christmas Day or it was on the Saturday sometimes, depending on how the days fell. Yeah. We would do gifts in the afternoon, have a dinner, and then some of the family would leave. And then Jared, myself, Jared's sister, so my other cousin, and then our mothers would hang around and watch a movie every year. And one of them we watched some good movies, and then sometimes you rent some movies and they were bad. This was back before you streamed that sort of stuff, and before you had better rating systems and whatnot. So you just go down to like Blockbuster and rent a movie. And we watched Envy, which
is not on the Christmas movie list.
It's not on the Christmas movie list. It's not on. It was billed to be better than it was, but man, it was a day that we will never forget for various reasons.
Yeah, what was that? The Razzie Awards? Is that the ones where they give them out to like the worst movies? Yeah. It should have won one. I don't know if they had those back then, but it should have won them if they did.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't even know how to segue out of that, but that wraps us up for another
8% on Rotten Tomatoes. 8%.
I wasn't making it up.
It's about right. It was brutal. But yes, that wraps us up for another episode of Fix with the Professor. We'd like to, if you're still listening now, we'd really like to thank you for tuning in. Post a comment. Yell at Cousin Jared. Tell him he's right or wrong about his Christmas list. Please subscribe or follow if you aren't already. That way, Bowl Games Part 2, that episode will appear in your feed when it first releases. We will not talk about Christmas movies. There will be more games, so we will be more focused on Bowl Game Part 2 when we record that episode. It can't be any worse than this one. But listen, remember, especially this holiday season, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.